real soon. Hope everybody's doing well. We've had a number of reports of exposures and some sickness, but hope everyone is doing their best to stay healthy and recover from the pandemic. As promised at last meeting, we're going to have each department take a turn hosting the all-staff meeting. Up first, and kudos to Sean Teague and his team for taking on sort of the first out of the gate role today. So I'll turn it over to Sean to go through his presentation. Sean.
Hi everyone, I'm Sean Teague, the production manager here at AZPM. Most of you are probably familiar with production services, but just in case you aren't, I'm going to take a few minutes and introduce you to everyone here on the team and what it is we do. You could oversimplify this team by saying we're the ones that shoot and edit video, but there's so much more to it. Arizona 360 is our public affairs show that we've been helping create for several years now. While the show is currently on a break, we're working with the team to take a fresh look at how Arizona 360 can best serve our local community with both a new look and new ideas. One of those exciting new ideas is a completely new television set. While most TV stations use a physical or what's called a practical or hard set, our new set is all virtual. What that means is that when you walk into Studio A downstairs, what you'll see is just a big, bright green room like this. As you can see, there's not really anything here but the desk and chairs. The magic of a virtual set is that it can be anything we need at that moment. Imagine a completely new pledge set, or a set that looks like a movie theater lobby for Hollywood at home. With just a few clicks of a mouse, we can be on any set we choose. As the camera moves around, you'll see that the software tracks that movement and matches the background perspective to the camera's physical position, pan, tilt, zoom, and focus, which is what makes this so different from a traditional green screen. As we work to reinvent Arizona 360, this new set will allow us to both bring a new look to the show and also give us the flexibility to better adapt to future needs and ideas. Another show we produce weekly is Arizona Illustrated. This program has won many awards through the years by bringing thought-provoking, beautifully told stories to a diverse audience throughout Arizona. We're privileged to have many talented producers that we get to work with to create these stories, and through creative photography and tight video editing, we're able to bring these stories to life. One of the many things we're working on right now is making sure that we're raising the bar higher and higher each week by trying to maximize the capabilities of our equipment while shooting and editing for next-gen television standards. That means everything we're shooting right now is in 4K, and we're preparing all of those pieces for HDR. Once we complete this new workflow, we'll be one of the very few stations in the country producing this kind of content. We also produce Hollywood at Home, pledge support videos, outside productions like live streaming events with multiple cameras, and working with outside clients to create commercial productions. All this can only be accomplished by a talented team, and it's important you know who they are. Bob Lindbergh is one of our several senior videographers who's responsible for both shooting and editing all of our productions. After Bob spent 7 years in the U.S. Navy, he came here to U of A to study media arts. While he was here, he began working at AZPM as a student, which is where he met another student worker who he later married. After just a short time, he was hired on as a full-time employee and, well, he's been here for more than 30 years. Bob has 2 kids, one of which just started school here at the university, and he has an interesting connection to the artist formerly known as Prince. You'll have to ask him for the details. Jim Blackwood is our resident audio guru. He serves as our audio mastering and recording engineer and has been with AZPM for over 27 years. A large portion of what you hear from AZPM, whether television or radio, has been touched by him in some way. He's also just as familiar with being in front of the mic as behind it. Jim has been a non-commercial DJ for over 33 years. Nate Huffman is another of our senior videographers and came to us from a PBS station in Vermont. Nate has what some might consider an unhealthy obsession with horror movies. This is evidenced by the fact that his school thesis was on how George Romero's first 4 zombie films affected the socio-political environment of the decade they were released in. Read into that what you will. Gage Judd is yet another of our talented videographers that also came to us as a student employee. He's now been with us for over 4 years and is quite adamant about wanting everyone to know that he has no relation to any other famous Judd. He's famous all on his own. Maya Long has been with AZPM for over 5 years and serves as our media specialist. What that means is that she does a lot of different jobs within our department. She's in the process of taking over promo production and working to help improve both the consistency and quality of these spots. In her free time, she's quite the outdoor adventurer and loves to get out for either short or even really long trips to enjoy nature. John DeSoto is another of our senior videographers and has been with AZPM for over 2 years. He came to us from a career as a cameraman in commercial Spanish news. Apparently, he learned that his Spanish wasn't quite up to par, so he had to broaden his vocabulary while on the job. As a result, he's been told that his Spanish sounds very newsy. Jandro Davalos is our newest senior videographer and attended the University of Arizona, where he graduated with a degree in film and television. Jandro loves spending time outdoors and says that he made the mistake twice of competing in a full marathon. Emmanuel Jubo is our senior editor. He's only been with AZPM for a few months, but is working hard to help bring our productions into the future by leading the charge into both 4K and high dynamic range video production. One of his favorite things to do is windsurf, but he's probably too old to be doing that. He said that, not me. Zach Harns came to Tucson almost 2 years ago from Lansing, Michigan. He's serving as our production technician since coming on board with AZPM several months ago, and says that he really loves being a part of the local content we get to produce here in-house. Calm down, Zach. You've already got the job. And lastly, I'm Sean Teague, and I've been with AZPM for a little over half a year. My family and I moved here from Oklahoma City, where we were all born and raised. Many moons ago, I worked as a recording engineer in a studio, but most recently I'd been working in Oklahoma as the broadcast engineer for a system integrator, where we specialized in media systems for churches. I got to travel all over the country consulting with churches both large and small, and I've been invited to speak at several conferences about how to do large-scale productions in a church environment. I've also spent many years training media teams both in how to do live video production and in how to run and manage large volunteer teams. I moved to Arizona in 2016 to work at a large church here in town as the technical director. Turns out it was a good thing I helped design some really nice, very high-end systems for this church through the years, since I wound up being the one to run all of it. Some of the things our department's been working on are upgrading some of our cameras to the latest 4K HDR cameras so that we can continue to push the quality of our local programs forward, integrating a new project management and scheduling software called Circus that some of you are probably hearing about, implementing this new virtual set, and improving our productions by upgrading our edit bays to the latest hardware. That will allow us to start building up our library of local programming that's ready for ATSC 3 when we move into our new building. Now, that's a lot of words, a lot of talking, so does anybody have any questions for us?
Is this live or is this Memorex?
Oh, no.
This is, in fact, live, in case you
Okay.
couldn't tell.
Questions for Sean?
If there's no
I
questions.
think everyone's just in shock. This was such a tremendous presentation and a way to reveal, you know, the background and the personality of all the folks in your team.
Excellent.
So Sean, I'm watching Pat Callahan take notes. I think you're going to be tapped to be a pledge talent before too long. So your audition tape was great.
Excellent. Thank you. If no questions, then back to you, Jack.
Okay.
I have one question.
Okay. Yeah.
Just this idea of, I know that we've talked about it, but if you can just elaborate a little bit on the idea of HDR and what that means for stations. I know we put a lot of time and energy into upgrading that. And what does that look like for the average viewer?
Absolutely. So right now, if you were to go to some store and buy a new television, it's almost hard to buy a TV that does not support HDR content. HDR stands for high dynamic range. And what that means is that the bright part of a picture in some show that you're watching can be significantly brighter than what we're used to seeing on a standard dynamic range TV. So it becomes a little more like looking out a window at sunlight and things outside versus the TVs and the brightness that we're used to looking at. So it involves a lot of additional production. The hardware has to change, so cameras have to support that as we shoot it. When we shoot HDR content, the picture is really ugly. It almost looks like it's black and white and there's no contrast to it. So to make it HDR is a process we go through in the edit bay. And we're able to both make an HDR version with this really bright brights, and we have to make a standard dynamic range version with what we're used to seeing. So ATSC 3, when that comes to our station, that's one of the features of it, is that it will allow us to broadcast both 4K and HDR content. Right now, there's not a ton of stations. There's not a lot of content out there, certainly locally produced content that's in either 4K or HDR. So if we can really stay at the front of this, then by the time we get into our new building, we'll be able to kind of pull the trigger and be one of the few around that's actually broadcasting this next-gen TV.
Other questions for Sean? Okay, good job, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks.
So moving on to the management report, we're going to focus the management reports from here on out on the 5 strategic pillars, beginning with audience development,